You know, as a former educator, I am deeply disturbed by the quality of education in this country. I look at what they're teaching, what they're not teaching. For example, they don't really teach how to analyze, how to research, how to identify a scam. They leave us vulnerable by not teaching us how to identify a scam. And people are being scammed all the time. The primary targets are the young because they're naive and they don't have the experience to identify a scam, and the elderly who are often cognitively impaired or lonely or otherwise an easy target for these criminals. And I'm not just talking about American criminals, I'm talking about criminals from all over the world. They target people in Europe and America, especially because the value of the money is very, very high. And they get them to send money hidden inside of objects in the mail or buy gift cards or whatever. But the point here is not that. The point here is that when I look at the quality of education, I am aghast. For example, in the current school district that I live in, they have watered down the standards so much that a child can go through their school year waiting until the end of each term or quarter to hand in homework to get their grades up enough that they don't fail. And they can do that term after term after term. And as long as they get a passing grade, they move forward to the next grade. Or they can start out with a great score in the first quarter, and then they slack off until the end of each quarter, get their grades up enough so they can maintain what they built in the first quarter, and then at the very end, and just keep on going, coasting through, getting a mediocre grade point average, but there's no repercussions. They can be lazy. They don't learn the lesson that when you have a job, or if you are self-employed, you cannot work that way. You cannot operate that way, or you'll be out of business. You'll be fired. So the teachers are like, well, you haven't turned it in yet. Can you get it in before the end of the quarter? Great. I'll take it then. When I was a kid, you had a deadline. And if you didn't get it in by the deadline, you had a certain number of days. And every day that you were late, your grade went down one level. So if it would have been an A, after 1 day late, it becomes a B. 2 days late, C. 3 days late, D. 4 days late, you failed. Now, you can go to the end of the freaking quarter or term, whatever term you want to use, and they'll give you the full score that you would have earned had you turned it in on time. So what is that teaching our children? That's teaching our children that, oh, you don't have to be responsible. You don't have to do things on time. And in life, it doesn't work that way. The schools have always been this kind of isolated experience where most schools don't teach us the right things, and they don't teach us how those things affect us in our life, how they're valuable. And it isn't until we get out of school that we discover that some of the things that we used or learned in school are very valuable, like basic math, arithmetic, algebra, maybe geometry, depending on what you're doing, are valuable. But once you get past those things, for most people, unless you are in a field or a career where you need more advanced mathematics, it doesn't help. It doesn't help. Same with science. But I'm not saying don't learn those things. I'm just saying that we get taught things that aren't necessarily going to help us in life. And anything beyond those basic levels of things gives you an advantage in getting a better job, a more skilled job where you can earn more money. But when teachers and even administrators, because in my school district, I have complained repeatedly that they are not properly teaching children about deadlines and that they are deadlines. that your grade goes to 0 if you don't get it in on time. They don't listen. They're all like, oh, I better take care of that. Oh. And then they're like, oh, you look, kid, you have to get it turned in by the end of the quarter. Bad boy. Bad girl. So the kids are learning the wrong things from educators. They're learning bad work ethic from the educators. They get out into the world and they have trouble and they're like, what's going on? I'm doing what I did in school. Why am I failing now? It's because you're doing what you did in school. And then there's the question of, are they teaching enough things? You know, when I was in a college prep school, up until my senior year, I didn't have a study hall. I had a full load of classes every day except for lunch. Then, my senior year, I had an accident. I had to transfer to a local school instead because I could no longer get to the college prep school that I've been going to, which was a great school. Maybe a little bit arrogant because it was such a great school, and it was the best public school, and even against a lot of the private schools, it was better. So when I went to this this local public school, the standards were much lower. I had to work much less in order to get a better grade point average than I had at the college prep school. And I had two study halls in my second semester. Because I had so many credits that transferred over that gave me... And actually, they didn't tell me when I transferred to this new school that I could have actually finished my high school degree one semester early. I didn't find out until the second semester. I was so pissed. But in retrospect, I should have been pissed that I could leave early from school every day during second semester. That I could walk home every day. I should have been pissed. I should have realized I was being robbed by that school. And unfortunately, there are a lot of schools all over the country that are robbing our future generations of a good education through various methods. I'm not going to get into all of the things, but I'm going to point out that critical race theory should be taught. And you can call it whatever you want to call it. The important thing is America needs to heal. We need to own up to the history of our ancestors and a lot of the people currently living in America who are racists. Now, when I say racist, I say anybody who discriminates. Like there was that woman that was a member of the government in Los Angeles. She was Latino, and she was saying racist things about blacks and whites. And I've talked to black people who say all white people are racists, which is a racist thing to say, and not true. Because if it was, all those people that went marching with Martin Luther King and the others would not have been there. They would not have been riding on the buses, the freedom rides, and getting beaten and thrown up in jail, just like the black people. They wouldn't have been there if whites are all racist. But I get it. You know, you were raised in an environment where you were taught all whites are racist. So why would you not believe that? Use your brain. Learn to analyze things. I learned to analyze because I studied programming. Look, it's easy to just live your life based on emotions. Your life is going to be chaos. You're going to be pushed and pulled and thrown upside down every which way. People will control you because you are vulnerable, because your emotions are what you use to make decisions. I don't feel like going to work today. I'm sick, boss. I can't come in. Look, you are vulnerable to criminals. You are vulnerable to abuse by partners. You are vulnerable to manipulation by politicians. You are vulnerable to media that deliberately stokes up fears and causes you to react inappropriately during a routine traffic stop, for example. So you get stopped, and instead of being calm and chill with the police officer and saying, hey, how you doing? Thanks so much. I'm not really sure why you pulled me over. Could you please explain to me? Give him your ID, give him your registration. Because, every state is different, and I don't know which states you can refuse to give ID in, but most states, if the police officer says ID and registration and license and proof of insurance, you give them that because that is your responsibility. It is their right to ask for that. You don't raise a fuss. You don't get difficult. Now, I'm not saying that every traffic stop that ends in disaster or abuse started out with the driver or the passenger being obstructive. That's not the case. There are situations where the police have deliberately targeted people that shouldn't have been targeted. But I am saying that a lot of the time, bad things happen to drivers because they don't cooperate with the police. And maybe you'll have a court case, and maybe you'll win. Or maybe the police will just pull out the qualified immunity BS that allows them to commit all kinds of crimes. Or maybe the chief of police will protect his or her police officers from repercussions for their illegal behavior. Because there are places where that happens. There are places where the police are involved in drugs and prostitution and stuff, and it all gets covered up. Anytime somebody tries to get it fixed, it all gets covered up. People disappear. People get thrown in jail. Why? Because they're talking too much. So yes, there are problems of criminals controlling the police. There are problems of racists controlling the police. There are problems of people calling you up and saying, hey, I'm from Microsoft, and we just got a notification from our servers that your computer has been compromised. So I've called you up, and we're going to help you get rid of that malware. Now, one of two things is going to happen. One, they're going to scam you out of a whole bunch of money all at once, and then they will put you on a list, and you will be continually scammed until you get wise, and some people never do. You will be poor the rest of your life because you will be giving your money to criminals, thinking they're helping you. Or two, they will say, look, I want to offer you a special promotion that we're doing. We have this product that will protect your computer amazingly from all kinds of malware. We'll fix your computer. We'll get that installed. All you got to do is make a monthly payment of $20 or whatever it is. However much they ask for. And they'll sell it to you. They'll make you feel like, oh my God, this is the magic bullet. And for years, you will be paying for a scam product that may not actually be doing anything except for allowing them to have complete access to your computer while keeping other criminals out of your computer. Because usually that's what they do. They sell you something that looks like what they say it is, but behind the scenes it is or is also malware, malicious software. But because our educational system is so pathetic, because teachers do not or are not allowed to teach us appropriately how to analyze, how to research, and how to think critically about things, use our logic and push our emotions into a place where it's appropriate instead of having them dominate our lives and create drama all the time. We are victims. I've been victimized. I've had love scams happen to me when I was younger. I had a best friend who eventually convinced me to let her be my roommate. Got a bigger apartment with her. She then quit her job, got herself a boyfriend. Now, she and I weren't boyfriend and girlfriend. We were just friends. And then she wouldn't pay the bills. She wasn't paying rent. She wasn't paying the phone bill. I was stupid. She said, I can't get a phone. Can you please help me get a phone installed in my bedroom under your name? And I naively thought, Okay, not understanding that if I use my name to give her a phone bill and she doesn't pay, I have to pay. That biatch still owes me over $1,000. Crystal Jewett. I was young. I was naive. I thought I could trust this person. I was wrong. I thought I could trust those Russian women. They're probably men somewhere in the middle of Africa or something, or the Middle East or India or something. Or maybe not down the street from me, because a lot of these criminals are working here in the U.S. too. They're Americans. Not naturalized Americans, but actual Americans from the very beginning of their lives. Just like Obama is a natural American. He was born here. Just because he lived overseas for a while doesn't make him a non-American, because he lived in Indonesia when he was a kid, because his mom remarried and married, instead of marrying a guy from Africa, she married a guy from Indonesia, and they lived there for a couple of years. Well, guess what? I spent more than 15 years in Indonesia as an adult. Does that make me any less of an American? No. But you guys have been so underserved by the school system that you went through that you cannot distinguish between what somebody tells you is real and then finding out what is actually real. Worse yet, not only can you not do that, you won't even take the time to research whether the person is lying to you or not. You'll just say, well, I trust this person. So, oh, you've got proof that this person isn't telling the truth? Will I research it? No. I trust that person. They can do whatever they want. They can say whatever they want. I don't care. You spend your whole life paying criminals because you believe they're not criminals. And this is because the educational system leaves us wide open to abuse by businesses, by the rich, by criminals, by foreign scammers, by religious leaders. I mean, Jim Jones, for Christ's sake. Get your heads out of your butts. Go to your school district and insist that they improve the standards, that they hold students accountable. None of this namby-pamby crap. Oh, well, yeah, and when you were a kid, when the shutdowns happened, and so we have to pamper you because you can't handle the pressure of actually doing your work. Oh, so sorry. Can you maybe get in all your schoolwork, or at least a little bit of it by the end of the school year, please? Oh my God. What kind of an administrator is that? That's not an administrator. That is somebody who's robbing the school system, that is robbing their community. That's my school system, my administrator, my principal. It pisses me off. It is unacceptable that our educational system just keeps on going like this. When George Bush II was president and he passed No Child Left Behind, you ask any credible teacher what they think of No Child Left Behind, and they will tell you it's crap. It causes children to be left behind. Maybe he had good intentions. I don't know what his intentions were. All I know, as a teacher, when I heard about this program, I was like, oh my God, this is stupid. And the results backed that up. And they continue to undermine our educational system. And the Common Core was so flawed. There were good things about it, don't get me wrong. Traditional grade card, the report cards, it's crap. It's useless. Why? Because say you get your son or daughter or them, whatever, gets a B in a class or a C or a D or an F. You don't know what they're struggling with because the report card gives you one letter. There are no notes. There's nothing saying, gosh, little Jimmy is good at growing peanuts, but he can't understand the political system. on a world scale. Or Jane, she's really good at biology, but except for this part here. You don't get that information. Now, one of the nice things about Common Core that teachers didn't like, because it meant they actually had to think and do some more work, which I understand, they're overloaded, they've got a lot of things to do. A lot of teachers take their own money and invest it in their students, which is sad. Teachers shouldn't have to spend their own money on their students. So they had to actually produce a report card with information on what your student was doing good at and needed help with and was failing at. They gave you information on the student's behavior. Teachers didn't like having to do that. Now, when I was a teacher in Indonesia, I had to do that, and I thought, this is great. Was it hard work to do sometimes? Yes, it can be a challenge. However, it's so important because it gives you as a parent real understanding of what your kids are good at and bad at, where they need help, what their behavior's like. And you can guide them if you're a good parent. If you're a crap parent, you're not going to care about this stuff, and you're not even watching this video. If you're watching this video and you're still listening, that means you care about your kids. Now, you may be messed up, but at least you care about your kids. So it's... so much about Common Core was wrong. Not everything, but again, you talk to experienced teachers who actually analyze and actually care about the students and actually know what they're doing. You talk to them about Common Core, you talk to them about No Child Left Behind, and they will say, oh, that stuff messed us up. And then you got schools that are introducing topics at a pre-primary or primary level that don't need to be addressed in school until middle school or high school. Preferably middle school, I think, would be ideal, because that's the age at which there's a lot of aggression, a lot of intolerance, a lot of abusive behavior. Friends become enemies, enemies become friends, and then become enemies again. So that is, but addressing things like the spectrum of gender. Now, I'm not talking about the fake genders that people say, oh, I'm a smoke demi whatever blah 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 gender. That's not a gender. I'm sorry. I'm talking about legitimate genders related to the various types of syndromes and stuff that exist, medically speaking exist, such as androgyny. And there's a list of them. There are like 15 of them, where your child, or maybe even you, is born with non-standard equipment. And just nipping and tucking isn't going to change the fact that they're non-standard, because there may be a chemical basis behind it. There may be other bases behind it that make it impossible for surgery to alter your child's gender identity. It's not necessarily mental health. Yes, there are people who have gender dysphoria, who have body dysphoria, and who come to believe that that's really what they are or who they are. And it may be, and it may not be. But biologically speaking, there isn't just male and female. Biologically speaking, if you talk to any doctor who actually isn't a quack, they will tell you there is a spectrum. And doctors have been fixing it, sometimes illegally, without the consent of parents. But I'm getting off topic. The point is, there is an appropriate age at which to teach things like that. And that's not in primary. Not in my opinion, anyways. Psychologically, I don't know what the psychologists and psychiatrists will say. But, I've heard that that as far as people who are like LGBTQ plus, that it's a minority of people, a small percentage. I would be willing to bet that if we could survey the entire country and if people were willing to be honest, it's larger than that. But there are some people who are railing against the gender stereotypes of male and female. They don't want to be classified in those two very strict categories. And so instead of doing what I did when I was younger, which was deciding, you know what, I'm not going to be a macho type. I'm just going to be my own type. And sometimes people thought I was gay because I didn't behave in the stereotypical way. But that's their problem, not mine. I don't care what they think. If they want to be stupid and think, oh, Glenn is wearing spandex, he must be gay. Let's see. David Lee Roth, when he was with Van Halen, wore spandex. Did anybody say, oh, he must be gay? No. Dummies. So, we need to have our educational system fixed. We need to have one standard for the entire country. I don't give a crap about states' rights. States shouldn't have rights. It should be a unified country. All this crap about you move from state to state, you got to learn the rules all over again. And judges who say, ignorance of the law is no excuse, are dumb. How many years did a judge go to legal school in order to learn the law? And how many years of experience did they have as a lawyer before they became a judge? So it's absolutely not true that ignorance of the law is no excuse. It is an excuse. Because there's no way, with constant changes to the laws, as the Democrats and are wrestling with the Republicans and the Republicans are wrestling with the Democrats and stuff, it's constantly changing. There are bookshelves full of legal books. So any lawyer who says ignorance of the law is no excuse is a moron and should be disbarred. They should not be a judge because they're very narrow-minded and idiotic. But again, this all starts with school. Our school system, on average, is worse than it used to be. Our standing, our ranking against other industrialized nations is... I'm going to read from worldpopulationreview.com. Ironically, despite the United States having the best surveyed education system on the globe, U.S. students consistently score lower in math and science than students from many other countries. According to a Business Insider report in 2018, the U.S. ranked 38th in math scores and 24th in science. Discussions about why the United States education rankings have fallen by international standards over the past 3 decades frequently point out that government spending on education has failed to keep up with inflation. Yeah, no, it's not the spending, it's the lowered standards. And that is being pushed by the elite, by business people who want vulnerable people. It's also worthwhile to note that while the best countries study is certainly respectable, other studies use different methodologies to emphasize different criteria, which often leads to different results. For example, the Global Citizens for Human Rights annual study measures 10 levels of education from early childhood enrollment rates to adult literacy. Its final 2020 rankings look a bit different. Now, you'll notice that it said that American education has declined. But trust me, when I was in my 20s, the American educational system was already in the 30s and 20s. So it's not a huge decline. That decline happened when I was still a young man. Now, you may look at me and say, you're a young man. No, I'm 57. So I'm middle-aged. I might die soon. I don't know. We'll find out. Stay tuned. Now, if we look at mastersdegree.net, top 10 toughest educational systems in the world. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of these educational systems are so tough, they have a high rate of suicide. So, like Japan, for example. So those countries are South Korea, Finland, Singapore, China, Japan, Hong Kong, Taiwan, South Africa, United States, and Russia. Now I don't know how Russia got on that, America got on that list, because, yeah. So let's see, prevalence of student stress. According to this study, Japan is by far the worst. 84% of males, 95.1% of females. And America, 67%, China, 67.5%, Singapore, 63%. Actually, I don't know if Singapore still does it the way they used to do it, but they used to have an intellectually segregated system where as you got to certain key grade levels, your test results would determine which stream, is what they called it, I believe, you would be pushed into. And those streams would determine whether you would be like a common laborer, or if you would be in a skilled or semi-skilled, or if you were being, it would be one of those top people. It would look at your, what was, good, what you were supposed to be good at. But there's a lot of stress behind that, because if you like screwed off in school, that would just basically determine a large portion of the rest of your life in Singapore. Now, I don't know if they still do that, but Singapore, 63%. Now, if we also look at other things about this, for example, people with tertiary education. In the country that has the highest rate of tertiary education, well, Hong Kong, which is part of China, has 104%. I don't know how that can be possible. Maybe it's because they've got like foreigners moving into the country and pushing it above the 100% level. So it should be 100%. Singapore, 91% of people have a tertiary education. That means a degree from a university or college. Let's see. And then Japan, 61.5. Then China, 59.6, which doesn't necessarily help people in China, because there have been some huge disruptions as far as jobs and stuff in China, and a very corrupt system that has discouraged a lot of Chinese people. Let's see, what else? 54% Russia, 52% South Korea. Where's America? I'm getting to it. 45% Taiwan. America's 44%, which doesn't really surprise me. The cost of a tertiary education in this country has become insane. And then 40%, 39 to 40% in Finland, 25% in South Africa. Now, what about the national IQ scores? The country with the highest national IQ score is Hong Kong, 107. And then Japan, 106.5. And then South Korea, 106. And then Singapore, 105.9. And let's see, where are we after that? China, 104.10. And Finland, 101.2. United States, 98. Russia, 96. South Africa, 69. Now remember, an IQ score is not an actual measure of how smart you are natively. It's a measure of how smart you are in specific areas of study. So it is not, in terms of this, it's valid because it's apples to apples. But if you say, well, I'm smarter than you because I'm good at math, but that person is smarter than you when it comes to science, and another person is smarter than you when it comes to fine arts, and another person is smarter than you when it comes to music, another person is smarter than you when it comes to psychology. All of you are smart. You're just smart in different domains. Yeah, so now if I go to globalcitizen.org, the top best countries for education around the world. And, well, this is from 2016, so it's not current, but at that time, Australia, Japan, South Korea, Finland, Norway, Singapore, Netherlands, Germany, Ireland, the UK. Not the US. So we have two opposing forces. One of them you can call global human resources, where we are all looked at as meat, as numbers. And from that perspective, they want a percentage of people to have high level of skills, but they want most people to have enough skill to do the jobs that are available and be malleable, be manipulated, be easily manipulated. They don't want people outside of specific fields to be critical thinkers, to be analytical, to do research and things like that. They want them to be sheeple. That's how business people look at us. They look at us as numbers, as people to be taken advantage of to get what they want, which is money, which gives them power. Money is a tool for power. Okay, the real raw thing that they want is power. And that gives them, at a certain point in their level, that means that they have a lot of power in governments, an unhealthy amount of power in governments. The other one is critical global citizens. These are the people that are able to say, oh, this politician is lying to us and is manipulating us emotionally so that we will be beholden to him or her for the rest of our lives. That we will believe that person even if they say things that are being reported as false, even if they say things that contradict our own beliefs. We will just go, bah, bah, and just believe them. So a critical global citizen can say, this person is manipulating me. Whoa, I don't want this person being president. I don't want this person being prime minister. I don't want this person being premier. I don't want this person being in government at all, because this person is nothing more than a criminal. These people often are megalomaniacs, people who want as much power as they possibly can get, or monomaniacs, which means they want to become an authoritarian dictator, or they are narcissists, which means they only really care about themselves, and they care about you as long as the amount of effort they have to put into the relationship with you is less than what they get out of you. So as long as you're more valuable than what they give you, they'll be happy with you. And that's the same way with psychopaths. Psychopaths look at you as tools. And as long as they receive more benefit from the relationship than they're giving, they'll be happy with you. But God forbid the balance should ever shift where you really, really need them. If you're lucky, they're just going to walk out of your life. If you're not lucky, they will utterly destroy you. They will destroy you on a personal level with all your personal relationships, because the smart ones will guard all of their relationships very carefully. So everybody will respect them, thinking they're good people. But if you need too much from them, they will go out of their way to make everybody hate you. They will go out of the way to destroy your reputation in business. These are the kinds of people that are flocking to positions of power, and it's destroying America. There are so many things wrong with education in America. I could go on for hours and hours and hours. But the point of it is this. Our educational system is in deep trouble, and that means America is in deep trouble. We are vulnerable to invasion, not just from outside the country, but we are vulnerable to domestic traders. Now remember, the founding fathers, when they talked about invasion, they talked about foreign and domestic, because they understood that you can have an uprising occur from within the country that's every bit as dangerous as an external threat from another country. And in some cases is more dangerous. Because here's the thing. When you get into a situation where you get a bunch of people who are aligned to push their agenda forward at the expense of everybody else, to deny everybody else their rights while claiming that their rights are being denied when they're not being denied, these people do not respect anybody else's beliefs. They do not respect anybody else's goals. They do not respect legitimate results. They only respect things that align with what they want and what they believe. Which puts America, if we get enough of these people in positions of power, like if we get enough people that are aligned in one group from one group that have the same radical beliefs of overturning, say, elections and undermining education in enough states, they will have control of the presidential, senatorial, congressional, gubernatorial, all elections. It will no longer be the America that I grew up in. Now, is America perfect? No, we've got huge problems. Massive. The entire time that I'm an American citizen, which is my whole life, there have been lots of problems. And it's not stopping. But if we get to the point where enough people who are aligned and are being led by criminals take over enough positions of power, they will upset the balance, and this will become a dictatorship or an autocracy or something where it will no longer be the America that our founding fathers created. Granted, what our founding fathers created was highly flawed. There were no rights for women. There were no rights for non-Protestant white men. It was always Protestant men first, and other men that were white second, and then other women who were white, or women who were white that were Protestant third, and then women who were white and not Protestant fourth, and then everybody else was somewhere way down the line after rocks and plants and trees and whatever. So I don't want to tell you what to believe, but I have to tell you this. What you believe belongs in the home. If it is a faith-based belief, it should not be taught in school. Because when faith is taught in school, it can undermine things. It can be used against you. It can be used to split your children away from you. It can be used to turn an entire nation into a fanatical, ideologically based nation. And whether you like it or not, whether it's your belief or not, that's very dangerous. Faith-based beliefs. I'm not saying that you can't talk about religion. I'm just saying that religion should not be the topic of discussion, let alone the topic of that is being taught, because there's just too many risks. Now, I know that rubs some people the wrong way, but as a parent, it is your job to take your child to your place of worship so they can learn what you believe. Now, personally, I don't agree with that because they're too young to know what's right and what's wrong, what's true, what's false. But you do you, okay? It needs to stay out of the schools. It needs to stay out of the government because it creates, having religion be in the government and in the schools creates a lot of problems that can totally destroy this country. I'm not saying religion per se is going to destroy the country. I'm saying that there are people who will take advantage of it for their own benefits, for their own motives, and will destroy this country. They won't necessarily believe what they're saying, but they'll say it because they want you to believe that they believe. So if you're a conservative fundamentalist, politicians will say, I'm a conservative fundamentalist. Look, I'm wearing a cross. I've got 15 Bibles at home. And a lot of them are just lying to you. Not all, but a lot. So, if you want to hear more from me on the topic of education, please leave a comment down below. As always, remember my community guidelines insist on civil discussion. If you are going to be rude or otherwise disrespectful to me or anybody else, I will be blocking you on my channel, deleting your comments, and reporting you to YouTube. If you want to be polite, we can have a conversation even if you don't agree with me. That's fine. I don't mind that you don't agree with me. But when you are rude on my channel, I don't tolerate it. Please, we need to work together to elevate the quality of education in this country. No matter what the business people want, it doesn't matter. This is our children that we're talking about. This is our country we're talking about. They don't care about that. They want money, pure and simple. They want power. And they will throw us all under the bus to get that. Be careful. Thank you for watching and have a great day.